here we are back in the old studio, and it might not look like really different than it used to, but it's been completely rearranged. There used to be a desk right here, and now there's a workbench with some drawers, and this is a whole new cabinet for all of my gear. And then I'm not quite done over here with this shelf. Then I've got some art up on the wall over here. Anyways, it's lit very dramatically, so you can't really see it, but it's a much more functional space, and I'm happy to be back in it permanently after kind of bouncing around between creative spaces for the last couple of years, in and out of here. Yeah, happy to be back. Happy to be talking to all of you about camera stuff, photography, gear, whatever. And today we are talking about a lens that was sent to me again by my friends at TVCMALL. It's a 7 Artisans 25mm f1.8 manual focus lens for APS-C, and in this case they sent it to me for Sony E-mount, and the problem with that is I don't shoot Sony E-mount, so I had to find a Sony E-mount camera to make this review. So I borrowed a Sony a6300 from my friend John at the Hog Shack in Steveston, and went out and shot a bunch with this lens, and it was great. Spoiler alert, not to jump to the end or anything, but I'm going to put some footage up on the screen of the lens on the camera because I no longer have the lens. I've returned the camera to John. I've actually given him the lens because he let me borrow his camera, and I can't use it because I don't have any Sony cameras, so it was a pretty good deal for everybody involved. It's a good looking lens. This is a silver version. It's got a nice kind of gold ring around just by where the filter threads are. It's got a clickless aperture, which if you're shooting video is a great thing. The focus throw on it is nice and short, also great for video, and very smooth with just the right amount of resistance where you're not worried if you're gonna bump it, it's gonna go out of focus. It's got enough sort of resistance that it's gonna hold its focus, but it's also easy to pull focus. It's a great combination. Unfortunately, I didn't really shoot a lot of video with it because of the type of video I shoot. The a6300 was a bit of a letdown in that regard. The rolling shutter on that camera when you're shooting 4K is something that I've never really experienced before to that extreme. I don't know if any of you out there shoot Sony or specifically the a6300 and have run into that rolling shutter before, but yeah, it was quite surprising. I've shot with the a7 III. Is that the last full frame Sony I shot with? Maybe. And that was great. The video on that was great. The rolling shutter was, you know, acceptable for what it was, kind of on par with the other APS-C systems that I normally shoot with. So yeah, I think the a6300 was, yeah, it was quite surprising. But as far as photography goes, with the 7 Artisans 25mm f1.8, it was fantastic. Sharp, even wide open, it was wonderful. Shooting low light with it was great with the f1.8 aperture. The focus peaking on the a6300 was actually quite good, and I was able to get mostly what I wanted in focus most of the time. It's always a bit of a struggle when you're working with a new camera system you're not familiar with to try to learn the menus and kind of how everything works. You sort of learn the quirks of the systems you're used to, and I think I was fighting with the Sony a little bit more than I would if it was something I was more familiar with, like a Fuji or a Canon. But that being said, The camera performed really well, and the lens was outstanding. It's a great value if you're looking for something on the slightly wider side, like it's 25 millimeters, so it would be it's a 1.5 times crop. Am I good at math? Probably not. 30, 25, 35, 37, 38 millimeter equivalent. Is that right? Anyways, I'll put it down here. I think I'm right, but I'm talking and trying to do math while I'm talking to a camera. What are you going to do? Yeah, the field of view is quite different. It kind of reminds me of shooting with the Rokkor 40 millimeter for Leica M mount, which is a fantastic lens, and I really like that focal length. Or if we're talking Fuji, the 27 millimeter f2.8, which is one of my favorite lenses. So the focal length it's close. It's not exactly the same, but it's close. It's a nice focal length for street. And with that 1.8 aperture, it's great for low light. It's great for background separation if you're close enough to your subject. Because it's 25 mil, you're not going to get a big background separation if you're farther away from stuff, obviously, but it's good at what it's good at, and it's an impressive lens. I think the build quality is outstanding, and I think for the price, which I forgot to write down, you're looking at around 60 bucks, 60 US dollars from TVCMALL. I'll put a link down below. This one they actually have this time, not like the last review I did, which they might actually have. If you go back to that review, the Velage lens, they might have that one. Although I wouldn't necessarily recommend that one as heartily as I'd recommend this one. For 60 bucks, this lens is outstanding. Like the optics on it are fantastic. The flaring is well controlled. You can force some pretty decent sun stars with it if you close down the aperture. Yeah. Thanks again to TVCMALL for sending me out that lens and continuing to support the channel. I've got some other content coming up. The way I've set up this studio is completely different to the way it was before. I have a permanent camera, microphone, and light setup. This does not move. I have my Fujifilm X-T30 with the Sigma 16mm f1.4, the Comica VM20 Pro, and the Zhiyun, is it the F100? What is this thing called? I don't remember. I'll put it down here, but it's a beautiful little compact setup on a Ulanzi desk mount. So it's got one upright and then an arm that goes off to the side, so I can mount the light and the camera and the microphone permanently. So I can sit here and I can shoot, and then my editing bay is here. I've got a big 40-inch monitor up here. I've got a 24-inch monitor here. I've got my tower down here. I can also run my laptop in this station and hook up through a USB-C hub and some various adapters to use all the monitors with my laptop as well. I'm really looking forward to recommitting to making content on this channel. I've got some exciting stuff coming up for the rest of 2024. We're going to the Netherlands in the summer. We're going back to Portland for the IndyCar race. This time I've got my buddy Stu coming with me. Very excited about that. And then we're heading back to Qatar in December for Formula One. I know I said I would never go back. I lied. The tickets are so cheap, and they've moved it later in the year, so it won't be as unbelievably hot there. It'll still be hot, but just not verge of death hot, hopefully. Again, thank you for watching, guys. Thanks to TVCMALL. And if you're looking for a cheap, very good, fast, somewhat wide prime lens that's available for multiple APS-C mounts, but this one was specifically Sony E-mount, click the link below for TVCMALL, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.